Hi there, it's Dr. Judith Briles, and welcome back to another, it's going to be an amazing episode of the Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing podcast. With me back is one of our regulars and certainly sponsor. So Rebecca Finkel, our rfpg.com. You'll
Correct.
find her. So I was talking here. So what do we say this stuff? Fabulous, you know, pretty good day is what we're going to have today, right, with Rebecca. So here we go. So fpgd.com. Rebecca is a multi award-winning book designer, cover designer, makes amazingly, and this is a kudo that came to you, Rebecca, that someone said, I so get this website. I so understand how to work through, how to add all that.
Oh,
From
thanks.
one of the clients you just rebuilt the children's website for. So that is awesome. Awesome
Right. That's
sauce.
wonderful. I'm glad she
Yeah.
was able to take it. I
Yeah.
love working
Yeah.
on websites, but I'm not big on maintaining them. So I try to
No.
train the client on how to make the little
Yeah.
edits along the way.
But what we're doing, we're talking about the need to branding, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today as we get into. But let me give you a quote from da 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 da. The How to Create Snappy, Sassy, Salty Success for Authors and Writers. Over 400 of my snappy, sassy, salty sometimes quotes to keep you going. But let's go with this one. All authors bomb at some time. Get over it. Start again. Fireworks are in your midst. I promise they're coming. So, with that, we're going to jump into talking about a variety of things. And of course, one of the hot topics, Rebecca, is all this thing about tariffs.
Oh,
So,
yes.
why don't we just talk about how tariffs may impact an author's book, not the creation of the book. Well, I don't know if you get in, you're not, that's not where you're going to, we're talking about the manufacturing of the book.
Right.
So
I
let's play a little bit with that.
I
If we
can't control the chaos outside the window. That's beyond my magic ball, my little office here.
can.
But
Yeah.
Amazon is very good about controlling all of its costs. Big it's a big operation. But the one thing I don't think it
Yeah.
can really control is the paper costs. It gets
Yes.
all of the paper overseas, or gosh, the majority of it. And I'm sure there's locally sourced some things, and it's a mix of a bunch of things, so it can really try to average out all of its costs. But I do believe it gets a lot of things overseas. And will tariffs eventually play into that? Yeah, I can guess that it is going to eventually play into that. And that would be a cost that it would pass on. I don't see Amazon
Let me
taking
just add
that.
in, they have already done it. I'll tell you what they're doing. They already sent out an announcement on Thursday or Friday a few weeks ago saying that they are reducing the royalty payouts on books that sell for less than $10. They are reducing them by 10%. Just saying that. And that's going to be directly in relationship to what you're going to talk about next, which is paper.
Correct. And
Yeah.
this is like the first time Amazon has
Yeah.
ever tried to navigate or control their vast library of books. They went all the way through COVID without ever trying to control their books. That's actually
Mhm.
a fascinating piece, historically, blah blah blah, if you want to talk about all of that. But so here is Amazon saying, let's try to figure out a way to navigate these paper costs that we are anticipating because of the tariffs. And who knows what the tariffs are going to do? And you cannot control, like I said, the chaos outside your window. That's not something that can ever happen. But so they're trying to hedge their bets is probably the best thing anybody's ever trying to do is hedge their bets. So
Yeah.
my advice to
Mm.
anybody trying to do POD printing is don't go down to your last dollar. Don't be like, oh, if I do this, if I go at this price point, I will making exactly what I want to make for my profit, exactly what I make. And there's a million of calculators out there. Just Google it. Price compensation, manufacturing compensation. There's a good one for Google. Sorry, there's a good one for Amazon. There's a good one for Ingram Spark. There's a good one for BookBaby. They're out there. They're Googleable, and I'm not gonna. They're all doing the same thing. So I'm not going to endorse one over the other because
I love I
they're
love Google. It's Googleable. I love
Googleable,
Googleable.
right? And they're all doing the same thing, and they're all giving you a lot of good advice. So I'm not going to endorse one over the other because they're all good. But Don't go down to your last dollar. Don't feel like I have to make $6 and so I'm making $6. You might want to bump that up to seven or six,
Mhm. Right.
seven, maybe 7.25. Just give yourself a
Mhm.
little bit of play. And that also bowls into something else that I always tell authors is that if you take it down to a minimum, let's say you have to make $6 and so you do 6.25 just to give yourself a little bit of cushion, then you can't run a special. You can't run a discount. You can't run a special for Mother's Day, Christmas, whatever your topic of your book and how it sells. You can't run a promotion with somebody else and run your books together or some other topic that you want to put
Mhm.
together. You can't, it gives you no wriggle room to
Ex-
do these things.
Exactly.
Give yourself a
And
little bit of room, a dollar, I'm talking about profit, $1 a
y-
profit, a dollar
yeah,
50 a profit. Not only does it give you longevity for the span of your book, it also gives you wiggle room to play, to augment your book in this way, to promote it with this other thing, to promote it with this other thing, to give yourself a discount and still make a profit. It also kicks this whole paper, idea that I have down the block. My other suggestion is if you have a book at 9.50 and Amazon's poking you or 9.25,
oh,
think about
they
bumping,
are poking. Yep, they're
right?
poking.
Think about bumping it up to 10. Or if you just think like, oh, I think I stretched it at 9. I just don't think my book has what it is.
No.
Think about adding
Uh,
value. Think about adding a
okay.
chapter. Think about adding recipes. Think about adding something to your book to give value, to bump it over that 10 range so that Amazon will stop poking you. Think about doing a little refresh. Anyway,
Well,
sorry to cut you off.
okay. So no, I'm totally there, and from 950 or whatever, go to 1095. Just do it. Just do everyone, please just do it right now. If you've got a lower end book. Now I'm telling you because Rebecca is one of my designers, so I'm just saying I'm going to raise. I'm not so much worried because I've got my smaller books priced at the right price. I think we're at the right price. The big books, though, which are the fiction books, I'm going to raise the price to 22.95 for everything because we're going to get hit. We're talking about books that are 400 pages, and those are going to get hit with. I expect to see any day that the author's cost, what Amazon costs, they call it the author's cost, on Do It, and I'll give you a little trick that you can all do if you are carrying a case of books in your car, and I do hope you are, to sell because you never know when that's going to happen. And it does happen all the time. I have one author who sells out of the trunk of her car everywhere she goes. Just people say, "Do you have any books with you?" She sells three or four every time she turns around at full price. No one questions the price. And Kathy always trims a little bit to round it off so she's not differing with pennies. But what you can do, I'm seeing those prices going up. Anytime you're out at event, even if like my book is going to be fiction books are going to be 22.95, up from $20. So 22.95, Rebecca, I hope you heard that. New barcodes, new,
Right, it's a thing. It's not just going into your Amazon
yeah,
account and saying, okay, 22.95. It
no.
does reflect on your barcodes and it does reflect. So it's a little bit more. And if you don't have to do this right now. You don't have to do it like, ooh, gotta do it right now today. It is, think about this.
Do
I
it.
feel
Do
it
it.
is
Okay.
coming. I do
I'm
feel
going
it
to
is
tell,
coming.
all right, my opinion is everyone just do it. Like today, as you're listening, as you're viewing, just do the bump up because it's coming. Paper co and once these costs go up, they do not come down.
It will
They
not come
do
back
not
down.
they do not start dunning down. Rebecca and I marveled at how low Amazon's printing costs were when Ingram Spark was so much higher. Now
through
Ingram Spark is
through
higher.
COVID. Through
Yeah.
COVID,
Ugh,
Amazon actually did keep their
about it.
prices lower
I,
as compared to Ingram Spark. And we were like,
exactly.
it's got to come up. It's got to come up. And then,
Yeah.
yes, they did come up when
Uh,
kind of at the
yeah.
tail end of COVID, when people were coming out of COVID, because a lot of people were out of work and or at home and writing during COVID. So that's kind of the mark that I remember. And
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
um,
So remember it. Just I'm going to do across, for the fiction across the board, bump it up. Now, when you're anywhere in a group, if you're doing like a discussion book, maybe you're bringing books to a book club and everyone wants you to bring extra books, then you've got the ability. I mean, you are the author, you're controlling your stock because you've already bought it at the author's cost. So you've got some inventory. Then you can do whatever deals you want,
two books two
and
books
make it
for
easy.
a price and a half, like a BOGO, but that's not really a BOGO, like a one for full price, one for 50% because you're there and it is cash. If you want to do a credit card, do however you would have do a credit card with it, whether it be Square or there's a number of things out there. I
Yeah.
probably use Square, but there's, like I said, a number of things out there. That's up to you, or a check. That's up to you. But however you want to deal with your books, if somebody's looking at you and they have $30 and you're like, I could make that work. I mean, whatever. You
Yeah.
can make it work.
Yeah. So you could do a bit bow. Buy one, get the second one half price. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff,
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Let's be
Yeah.
creative, have some fun in the process, but costs are going up. And if Amazon is saying, hey, those of you under $10, we're going to whack off 10% of your royalty, you know that, and that is in writing. They have already forewarned everyone it's coming across the board. So just be ready. That's one of the things that I see us hit for because of tariffs. And I don't care if tariffs disappear once they raise prices or lower royalties to you. You may not know, but Simon and Schuster is the guilty publisher that reduced our royalties from gross retail to net receipt, and that cut all royalties in half.
Right. By 50%.
One fell swoop. Yeah.
Right. Bookstores buy books at 50%.
Mhm.
And that's how they make their
So,
profit. That's how they stay in business. I mean, there's nothing that's a business model from actually World War II, 1950s, 40s. That's how bookstores stay in business. And so
mhm,
we want that. We want
mhm.
that to happen. Um,
Yes, we do.
But when you buy from Amazon, they become the bookstore. So that's how, they only not only do they manufacture the book, they also become the bookstore. So they double up, 2x. So, it is what it is. That's the reality of it though. Anyway,
Yes.
moving
All right.
along, also Amazon
Yeah.
has also done some great things with eBooks. They've just recently changed their internal code. This is not something, I'm not going to get very technical about this, but before now they've always said, oh, we can't have big images, we can't have big art, we can't do sharp images. And they've just recently opened up their code. So now we can have sharp images. We can have this. So the limitation now is the size of your screen, the pixels on your screen. We can now have massive images that will be very detail oriented, and they can hold their value and hold their sharpness across the spectrum. I mean, for me, that's very exciting because a lot of times we have these detailed organizational charts or detailed photographs that have always been diminished, and that's always been a negative side for ebooks. And so Amazon did just step up and redo all their internal code, and so now or whatever part of the internal code they had to do. I have no idea what that is, but they just kind of redid it, so now images can be very sharp, and so it's actually pretty
It,
exciting.
that is exciting. So does that mean we have to resubmit files?
If you want to, if you will have detailed files in your books, and before you've been like, the ebook, we just have to like limp along on the ebook, that's just fine. Yeah, then go back to your ebook designer, have them redo the images at higher resolution. And anyway, that's a thing. They have to really do some research on figuring that one out, because I had to do some research on figuring it out because Amazon just kind of blipped it past. They didn't really they don't ever do that stuff anyway. But just your normal ebook, I don't know of I don't, maybe beyond your cookbook, Judith, I don't know of any of your books this would be really be advantageous to. It was the shot down
It's a cookbook.
Steve's book that would be advantageous to, because he has a lot of imagery that
Mm.
came off a personal. This author's father was shot down in World War II, and he went out in his backyard and took photos of planes and things. And somehow he was able to keep these. And like when before he was shot down, when he was in the military, he took personal photos, and he was in charge of getting photos to the United States. He was the one in charge of the platoon or whatever we want to call it. So he got a lot of very personal, very highly sensitive photos, that would have been otherwise censored, to his wife. And so that he brought out his book that had all these incredible photos that are incredibly detailed that were, it was a good thing that, sorry, when the book came out, it had the 50-year anniversary of World War II. They were no longer, they no longer classified in any way, and no submarines forever. He was a pilot for sure. But a lot of these photographs, I was like, I cannot believe you have these photos. Like he took personal photos and never censored. So, and these photos would be really great to have in high resolution.
I think so too. Well, I want to bring up another, since we're talking about censoring, that is a big surprise that's happening. That I have a client who's working on a new book. And I think I shared this story because we shared this client with Rebecca. And that he went in to get the domain that he would then redirect to his branding author name to have it.
Oh.
And he went to GoDaddy. They would not let him buy it, would not let him buy it. It had blah, 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 blah. And the two words that he was trying to add in were without religion.
Oh,
Okay.
yes,
Totally
yes.
blocked. So I said, just a minute. I think we need to go explore this. So I went to the hosts that use the site that I use. It actually is based in the UK. And I put in the whole title.com and just said what's available. And guess what we bought? The
Hmm.
.com.
Good deal.
So just to let you know, Rebecca, that baby's coming to you. But
Right.
but but it is interesting to see what's going on out here. That what defines what is censorshipable and what's not.
I do
And
have a story
I'm
about
having a real hard time with this.
I'm having a, I have a, I had an author that has a 9-book epic fantasy series, and we were starting book 7. He's written them all, and so we're just kind of
Yeah.
catching up to him. We're on book
Oh yeah.
7, and the main character gets caught and is in prison. And so he wanted to show the main character on the cover in prison, but the main character gets tortured, and he wanted to show the torture. Hands over head, shirt off, emaciated, blood and guts, fingers missing, torture,
Yeah.
right? Really, really bad. And so I'm like, okay, let's go down this path. I'm open to rabbit holes. Let's go. And so I'm looking for images, and no, there's no
Yeah.
stock images to this. There's
Yeah.
nothing. So I go to AI, and I'm like, well, let's see what AI can do. And I have several sources for AI, and I start to I type in the whole line, in a dungeon, spiders, torture, the whole thing. Nope, AI won't let me get anywhere. Nope, this is not a good image. This is not. So I'm like, okay, let's take out torture. Let's take out some things. Let's make the language softer. Because I think I have like 75 words I can use. So I'm softening the language. Nope, nope. So
Mm.
finally, I'm like, okay, I'll Frankenstein this image. I'll get it in pieces. I know I can get a dungeon
Yeah.
wall. I know I
I
can
mean,
get,
Frankenstein is a mess.
right? I know I
Frankenstein
can get a
is a
dungeon
mess.
wall, and I know I can get manacles, and I know I can do this, and I can take fingers off a hand, blech. But so then I had to go with man with a shirt off exercising with his hands over his head. And I got that. Then I had to say thin man. They let me have a thinner man. So I had to Frankenstein the whole thing. And then I got thinking about it. Epic fantasy. Do you really want to see a tortured man on the cover? I mean, gosh, go into that with your words. Oh my goodness, explore all of that with your reader. But if a new reader comes up to this epic fantasy, they don't know anything about books 1 through 6. They come up to this abuse, torture, whatever cover, and they're like, what? I'm not interested in that at all. Like abuses and torture and abuse, or however you want to name that, is it's a hot topic, and it's not fun, and it's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. So now I'm going back to the author saying, okay, not only can I not find images, and I have to Frankenstein this whole thing, which is not going to be good. The light sources are all over the place. Do you really want to put this on your cover? I mean, please explore this on the inside. Please explore any topic you want on the inside. Take your reader on go. I totally trust this author to handle it. But on the cover, we need to do something else. We need to do something else. So we did. We went a different direction. So then, and it's a fine epic fantasy cover with there's a fairy and a war and a dragon and a wizard. So, you know, typical thing. So then, and it's not soft. There's still angst and anger and still tension filled. But then another author, totally other author, where this is the fourth book in a mystery series, current times mystery series. And it starts off with a plane crash, and they want a plane crash. It's a Cessna, one person in the plane, Cessna, crashes in a field. End of story. There's nothing, that's all there is to it. So I'm like, okay, plane crash. Type it in, stock photography is nothing. They'll only give me a plane that's level in a blue sky. There's nothing going on. So I can't even get like a nosedive. Can't just level. Or, you know, nose up. Can't do it, stalling. Can't do anything. So I'm like, okay, AI. So I go to AI, all my sources. I cannot get past, I'm getting censored. I cannot get past a level or a stalled plane. I cannot get one that is at all at a decline. As far as a crash landing, you can forget it. None of that. I can get none of any of that. So now I'm going back to the author saying, I'm being blocked, not banned. That's a different word. I'm being blocked from all this violence, and we need to go in a different direction. So now we've just backed it up, and now we're in the cockpit. You can see the land coming up. So it's more of the intent instead of the final act. So we've just backed the whole scene up like 5 minutes or 3 minutes. And so you're still seeing the intent, not the final act. So anyway, images all over the place. I can do all of that. But
Yeah, and you know, with what you're talking about, what really kind of boggles my mind
that was a
is,
shocker to me.
yeah. But what also boggles my mind is that when I look at some of the covers for horror books, I'm
Yes.
going, whoa, wait a second. Everything that you've gone through it's that and beyond.
Right.
So,
Then I started to look at, yes. Then I was like, okay, we're going down a rabbit hole. I'm looking at horror. I'm looking at other mysteries. I'm looking at books with plane crashes, you know, they're all over the place. And somehow I'm like, why am I being blocked? Like, is it me? So then I started, you know, then I'm starting to talk to some of my other book cover designers, some of the other people my friends and things, other people in the industry. And they're like, no, AI is very cautiously sending out things that you cannot, you know, don't go in that area and don't go. What they don't want to have on a cover is this fiery crash, this big thing, especially now. Typically now, when there's been a couple plane crashes lately. There's been some things happening lately, and some radar have been blinking in and out in New Jersey, and there's just one in Denver this last week.
I
Temporarily,
know.
a second, like 60 seconds, 90 seconds, very quickly, but they do want to have, this is not the time to have books come out like that. Mm-mm.
Well,
So basically what we're doing is we're going creatively around it. Can we show the intent instead of the result is what we're going for. And
mm,
the intent, we can be creative around this for sure. It was an interesting situation.
yeah,
Can't
yeah.
show
Well,
that cover. I'd love to show that cover, but we're still working on it, so I can't.
well, but I also like, here's the deal. So the workaround, I was able for Dale to get a workaround. I said, let's just go exploring other places. Is this just oversensitivity in America?
Right. There's workarounds. You can be creative. You can think
Mhm.
around something. You
So
can.
yeah, that's what we did. So I was pleased with that, and doing it. See, I'm kind of glad for my fiction series. I'm sticking with daggers and swords, bows and arrows.
Daggers and sword, right? It's France in 1500s. So they don't have airplanes and they don't have, they don't have a lot of the current technology. So, right?
Yeah,
They have
but the
fire. You
shotgun,
can do
yeah, the
fire.
shotgun thing was a true photo. and
Right.
actually, the designer did find that plane coming down. I mean, if we've got, you've got the military channel, you've got the history channel. This is all over the place. None of that is being censored with planes crashing and blowing up and all that
Turn
stuff.
on the current news, but somehow they do not want a lasting image of a book cover. Like I said, I could Frankenstein that thing.
Amazing. It's amazing. Okay. Well, here we are. This is today,
Right? Here we are.
2025. All right. So moving on. So just be aware, prices are going up in different ways, right? Reducing royalties and all that. But I actually see per print cost going up. That it's going to be reflected very fast.
How much
Um,
how much do you see going up? Do you see a percentage? Can you say a percentage or a per page or can you
well,
guess? What's your crystal ball look
Amazon.
like, Judith? What's your
Yeah,
crystal ball?
Amazon. Yeah, crystal ball. Amazon works with nickels and dimes and quarters, when they raise things up. So, like one of my books is $6.13. How they got to
In
that
profit.
formula.
You're talking about in profit.
No, that is my cost. That is my cost to print the book. If I
Okay.
want to order 100 books, it will be $613 plus shipping.
Okay.
So, be aware there. So I would expect to see that wouldn't surprise me to see it at 673 very quickly. And it's going to happen in a nanosecond.
Hmm.
They won't even tell you on it.
Really?
So
You don't get even a notice. You don't get to like, oh, we're raising prices. Just the next time you go in, it'll be like, oh, darn, look at that. Whoa.
no, they probably would give a notice. I know Ingram Spark usually gives a notice. Ingram Spark usually runs $1 a book higher. So people who are focusing on bookstores, that's your challenge because they want to pull from a distributor. I have a list of distributors. They are being unbelievably pain in the tushes, not rejecting really great quality books. We don't
Hmm.
understand it. Ingram has, besides the Ingram Spark, they have the Lightning Source Ingram that goes out, but they don't represent a publisher unless you have, at least it used to be 10 titles, 10 titles. So, and I really said to one of my clients, I wish I had put my imprint as like a co-publisher for you. You would get, I'm not interested in taking anything, just to keep the door open for you. I
Right.
wish I had done that. Now, I don't know if we could easily just slap that on the copyright page to wiggle her around because I have a situation with Barnes and Noble, like my husband's book, Have You Ever Held a Mountain? It's got a vellum cover. It's got a ribbon in it. It's got a gold foil on it. That is not a print on demand book. You cannot do that on print on demand.
Those three
Um,
things are nope, nope,
no,
nope.
no, zap, 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 zap. But Barnes and Noble will send me a notice. Judith, we have a bookstore here wants 10 copies of your book. Could you get them delivered over? I get that all the time. So I'm really trying to think, can I mentally come in the back door and add this on now? So that's what I'm trying to work through right now to take care of her. She just got another order for 300 more books this morning from Amazon. She has sold 500 books, everyone, in 2 weeks. Do you know how good that is for an independent published author?
It's fantastic. This is her time, though. This is her time. The graduation time. This is
Hmm.
her time
It's
to shine.
huge.
If
Mhm.
she's selling 300 books in 2 weeks in like October, that's phenomenal. That's really incredible.
I think that can keep going because that's called now the stocking stuffer. That's called the
True.
gift
It
book.
is true. I don't
There,
know what
there's so
she
yeah.
has an
So I
evergreen book. She really
Yeah,
does.
it is evergreen. So I think all of you need to think about this. How can my book be positioned as an evergreen book? A lot of them can. You just probably don't use those words and you don't think in your marketing that way. You don't push it out. You don't talk to people on that. But bookstores, bookstores can really be your friend. I was in a bookstore this weekend, and let me tell you, it was the quiet. I could have thrown a bowling ball down the center aisle a couple of times.
Oh,
Really
this,
quiet because this is the huge graduation around the
I was gonna
country
say, yes,
weekend.
this weekend and next weekend as well. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I will tell you, Hillary Ashbury was with me with her book from dorm to doorstep, which is really it's for girls. It's a girly book. It's for the 16 to 25-year-old. It is a perfect graduation. And we managed to sell 20 books just by beckoning people over to talk to us. Of course, I bribed them with chocolate, but that's okay. I have another thing I'm doing. I still managed to sell a lot of books during this time, but normally we would have had at least 25%, 30% more in sales on a normal day. But it was quiet. I didn't even see a bunch of little kids in the stores today. Usually Saturday is slammed with kiddos in bookstores, with
Yep.
parents bringing kiddos in.
Yep.
So, this is a unique dial, and we realize that. But it was a good thing, and people saw her books, they instantly got it. They got it. They
Yep.
said, I will take one or two books. It was perfect and
Yeah.
going in. But my purpose was taking a client to break her into the bookstore experience and doing that. And so, but there's things to do. So I'm still trying to think, okay, how can I work it around to help her with the leverage I personally have? Because I think this book should be in a bookstore,
Oh,
you know.
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that's this book will
On- yeah.
this book will sell itself. I know the one you're talking about.
Mhm.
It will sell. That's a good book.
Yeah. So, anyway, what you all have to, what we're saying is, this is not, you don't create your book and then bury your head like an ostrich. Yeah, this is not what you do. You got to stay tuned into what's going on and what's out there, and what can you do with that to enforce it. So, Rebecca, I'll give you another idea. I do, and so I have a soiree later today where I am doing a special program for kids who write kids books on how to get into schools. And so and I'm feeding them lunch. Okay. So I was doing things. So I just started taking pictures because I have a little book called Cooking with Judith. Would have you all get it. And Rebecca did a
It's well
fabulous
designed.
layout. Yeah, it's very well designed. And I was playing around with recipes. I said, I'm doing I'm going to do two salads we're doing a sandwich bread, but I made this fabulous pasta salad. And I just started mixing in from the calamatas to the salamis to little teeny mozzarellas and then feta coming in and then the cake. I mean, all the stuff that I mix in and do stuff. And I started thinking, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that. I've got a finished picture of it. I didn't do the ensemble, but I have a finished picture of it, and I'll put the recipe together and send it out to all the people that I know that bought the book so they can do an add-on for it. The other thing is that I did this other recipe with a chicken salad, but I actually took pictures as I went along, as I added, okay, I've got the chopped grapes, I've got the smashed up pecans, I've got all the stuff I kind of add in. And actually, one of the people who work for me overseas said, can I just watch you as you cook? And I said, okay. I did this morning as I was making it. So that those are things that you can add on. So I want to encourage you. My tip to add to this is please make sure that you have a note page. And if you want to email me, I will show you what I take into every bookstore, every event I'm at that I have books. And so that would be at Judith at Briles, Briles.com. And just say in the subject line, send me um, uh, a buyer's signing page. Okay, so this is what I do. I take at the top of the page, always brand yourself. So put your book covers at the top. If you have multiple book covers, you strip it down, and I'll tell you why that's the cheat. When I go in a bookstore at any event, I immediately just write a number on top so I know what my start is. right, that's it above it, and below the copy of the book, I just do stick figures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know what book is selling, so I can have that. Then I have 3 columns: name, email, mobile number. At least half of the people give me their mobile number. And then, and I just say, I'd love to have you join my preferred email list, and I'll let you know next time in the stores or if anything's happening. And they gladly give me their name. And then when they leave, I very quickly add behind their name just an initial, like if they bought the Secret Journey SJ, Secret Hamlet SJ. If it's cooking, it's a C. Each one, so I can always follow up and say, I enjoyed meeting you at Barnes and Noble at Colorado Boulevard, and thank you for getting my book, Cooking with Judith. All right. So, and then I ask them and I remind them I'd love to have you post a review on Amazon. Okay, so that's my 1, 2, 3 to support you and your book. But then you start building your email list, which is the gold,
That's the
always
goal,
gold standard. Okay, so that's my 2 bits for this
right?
morning.
That's the goal. That's no, really,
Yeah.
your email is the goal. How, as a reader, and I'm an avid reader. I don't sleep well, so I read a ton. Is when I can reach back out to my author, any author, and get more information. I just
Mhm.
finished a book last night, and I immediately reached out to the author and wrote a review because it was such a good book, and
Oh,
anyway,
nice.
I wrote out
Thank
to
you.
I immediately wrote out to the author and said, and gave her a review. I was tired. It was late at night, but I
Yeah.
gave her a review because it was such a great book. And there was one author that years ago I reached out and I kind of said, I lecture at Denver University on publishing, and she has a number of, yeah, you just lost your privileges. So um, and she has a number of storylines going. She has like 5 or 6 storylines going, characters going, and she builds books on top of them. And she has started as independent, and she grew her storyline in breadth, and they're all very different storylines. And one of them was she went to an independent publisher, a professional publisher, and a couple more. She sold this one to an independent publisher, and she's still publishing with them. She kept a couple independent. I kind of said to her, I lecture on publishing, and I would love to do a case study on you. And so over the years, we communicate once or twice a year. I ask her questions about, I ask her all these lecture questions, and she responds, and she's now sold one of her lines to Netflix and is developing a series on Netflix. And now she's come out with yet another, a 6th line that is under the umbrella of one of her publishers. So she has, if I can remember this right, she has 3 independent lines that she has kept, and she has developed a publishing company that she supports other authors. She has one line with one publishing company. She has one line with another publishing company. She's developed another line with this other publishing company, and she's in talks with selling one of these with another. Anyway, she's like spread out, and that's almost the typical modern author, that she starts independent. She builds her base through the gold standard of emails
Emails.
and bookstores and meeting your
Yes.
reader and reaching out to your reader and building this base. She also doesn't start with the same character. She does move across the spectrum. She is romance, horror,
Hmm.
mystery,
Wowza.
couple romance. She does a bunch of things. She has a bunch of characters. How she keeps that straight, I have no idea. Like, I'm not a writer, so I have no idea how she keeps all these things straight.
Mhm.
But she writes, and she does not have an assistant who helps her write. She writes these storylines. Um, and she's essentially, how she got noticed is because she had so many followers, so many readers, so many people giving her reviews. She could go into a publisher and say, this is who I am. This is my storyline. These are all of my storylines. This is what I'm doing. So she could really say that I'm a big deal, because big publishers are not looking out. They're no longer supporting writers the way they used to. They're no longer building writers the way they used to.
They
You
don't.
have to come in as a big deal. And so that's how you become a big deal, is starting with the readings, and starting with the book clubs, and starting with the mail outs, and starting with what Judith has said about going to a bookstore and reaching back out to your reader. God, that reader who got an email feels like they were touched, feel like they have a direct communication with somebody. a newsletter that comes out, and I would not put one out every week, and I would not put one out every month, maybe quarterly. Not only is it a lot for the writer, it is a lot for the reader to feel they need to keep up. And a lot of times they're like, oh, not again. Not again. And they just push it off. I'd be happy. I'd be funny. I'd something that happened in your life, something,
Mhm.
the thing is, it gets exhausting, and it does get to be a lot, but I would definitely reach out to your reader, reach back. If they've reached to you, you have to reach back a lot. You have to find that gap. You have to bridge that gap and reach back to them. So I've continued with this author. She's like 30 in her late 30s, maybe. No, she's in her early 40s now. She's in her early 40s now. And she just writes. She just keeps going. She's been all the way through Europe on book tours. She goes on small book tours through the South. She's a Southern writer. Through the South, like the most north she is like Pittsburgh, and like west she's been as Texas. And the book tours uh she does. She arranges them, she pays for them, and she arranges the bookstores, and she
Yep.
calls out to her writers and all of her readers, and the bookstores
Mhm.
are packed with people, packed.
Mhm.
She's never in a bookstore and it's like 3 or 4 people. People stand in line. You go to conferences, you go to book conferences. She brings in other writers so that she's not the only one, so there's a bigger draw.
Mhm.
There's lots of pie. Everybody gets a piece of pie. Bring in your people, bring in your friends, bring in your other writers. Everybody gets pie. I think Judith one time said, possibly it's not a great idea to do a book signing with let's say you're a romance writer. Three of
All the
you,
like-minded romance writers, mix them up.
mix them
Mix them
up.
up.
Don't bring in three romance writers. Bring in a
No,
children's
no,
writer, bring in a romance writer, bring in a epic fantasy writer, bring in a mystery writer.
exactly.
So you're not all targeting the same reader. The reader can move along like, yeah, I've got kids. Yeah, I love horror. Yeah, my husband likes this. Yeah, blah blah blah. My sister likes this. They can buy the whole line instead of saying, oh, well, I bought this whatever, so I'm booked out, by the time they get to you. So anyway,
Well, and the booked out is that usually when they come in, they're looking for fiction. I mean, what makes my heart sing when I see in a bookstore someone has like 5 books they're
yes.
carrying around. They're open for another possibility. They may have hit their budget. They come in often with budgets. Like when I come into a bookstore, sometimes I, okay, I'm going to spend $100, and I'm doing my walk around, or you never know. You never know. What is the surprise is I'm seeing young people have more and more books in their hands that come into the bookstores, which is kind of cool. But if you have a bunch of fiction, you could have a fantasy, you could have a romance, you could have a historical. That those all sometimes blend in, and they've shot their budget on their fiction, and they're not going to do it. That's why you'd much rather be with a business author. That when I was with, like, for Hillary over this in one of the weekends with her from dorm to doorstep, that book does not compete with mine. It's an add-on, because
It
they're
was an
actually,
add-on. Yeah.
it's a total add-on because they were buying for a young person. That and I always ask after my crony here has done her pitch or whatever she's done, and they're done and the deal's done, and then I just ask them, and how about you? What do you read for you? What kind of books do you like? And they come over and say, well, show me what you have. It's great.
Right. And you're not going to sell your book to everybody. I think you have to be willing to say,
Oh,
I'm not into epic fantasy, and you're like, have a great day. But somebody, it's gonna, not every book is for everybody.
mm. Or someone will just say, I'm looking for the romancity line. I'm looking for just this. And I'm saying, right over there is a table with all of Rebecca Yarrow's books. If you don't have her latest one, you might want to pick that up because that's singing to you.
Right.
And that's just being one of the best things when I go into a bookstore is when the staff will say, oh, great, you're back. Our customers love you. Yes, that is that is what I'm looking for in this deal. So, not only you're building relationships with customers, if you're working with bookstores, you've got to build a relationship with the people who work within the bookstore. So we brought them a whole bunch of donuts. We bring food for the we do it.
I
And
love
you
it, the
have,
bribery. Donuts for the staff and chocolate for the customers. I love the bribery.
yeah, no, none, no, never underestimate what's going on. All right, so we're all over the place. So Rebecca, you had a couple of things about management, when to step back, the
Oh,
management. So let's talk about those of you who are perfectionists and micromanagers. Sometimes you become your worst enemy, and you can't let go, or you won't step away and let a pro come in and really do what they do so well. So, do you want to kiss on this one a little bit?
sure. I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years. I've worked with any number of authors and any number of management styles across the board. And I try to meet you where you are. I don't try to change you at all. I try to, figure out where you are as far as management style and be like, okay, let's make you comfortable. Let's figure out where you are. And so with a micromanager, I mean, so just put it out there. I can't write a book. I just cannot. It's not in my skill set. So I'll never say like, oh, this paragraph was a little rough, so I rewrote it for you. Oh, you'll never hear those words out of my mouth. Never,
No.
never, 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 never. I might say, gosh, there was one time in the 9-book fantasy series, I thought one of the main characters' name was misspelled, and so I circled it and sent the whole proof back. I was done with it. I circled it and said, pay attention to page 19. I circled the word and I want to make sure it's spelled correctly. And he's like, no, it's fine. Like, yeah, that's the extent that I will do is I will, circle a word and query it. But management styles is where we were going, sorry. But it's more of I want to make you comfortable. So I'll do what I can to make you comfortable with a management style. But for as far as micromanaging, it it's I see a plan and I try to stay with the plan. There is a
Mhm,
point where you need to trust me that I can really do what I say I can do or do what you expect me to do. And
mhm,
when I fall out of that line, yes, please. Oh my goodness, tell me where I did wrong. Tell me where I went astray. We can have a conversation. But it's more of if you're, and I also, this is how I feel. If you're paying too much attention to what I'm doing or what Judith's doing or any other aspect of it, you're not doing what you need to do. So when we come to a deadline, now we're scrambling because you've been diverted from what you should have been doing. Everybody has tasks in this project and putting a book together. And if you're paying too much attention to what we're doing, you're not doing what you need to do. So all of a sudden, you need an extra couple of days. And so we can't move the deadline for whatever reason. It needs to be static. All of a sudden, I need to move faster, or Judith needs to be faster, or the proofreader needs to move faster, or somebody else in the product line needs to be faster. So it ends up being this snowball of we now need to move faster because we couldn't be doing our jobs efficiently.
mhm, mhm.
Each of us couldn't be doing our jobs efficiently. So um, I understand there's comfort levels, there's controls, we try to mitigate those. We try to say what we try to have integrity. And if we say we're going to do it, sorry, if we say we're going to do this, we mean we're going to do this. We try to meet all deadlines.
Mhm,
There's a level of control that we just need to be aware of and comfortable with.
mhm.
So I just want to say, be careful with that. You've hired people because um, you want their expertise. So let's kind of depend on their expertise.
I also would like to recommend to all of you that, if you're in a pickle, or you think you're so set on what you think your cover is supposed to look like, you may be really wrong on that. And you have to ask and answer this question. Who is this book for? Is the book for you, or is it for the buyer? Who is the book for?
Many times when I'm designing a cover and I get that, it has to be this.
Yeah.
So when I'm designing a cover, I'll give you 3 covers. And a lot of times the first one is exactly what you
Mhm,
say, it needs to be this. And a lot of
mhm,
times, since I've been doing this for many, many years, I'll give you what my impression is, what I think this should be. I mean, one of
mhm,
my jobs as a book designer is that I'll ask this question many times, who is your reader? Who is your audience? And a lot of times you'll say, my reader is this group of people. And I'll be like, okay, I'll try to bring it out to this group of people. I'll try to add a few more on either ends, or however that goes, however you want to do this metaphor. So I'll try to add a few more. And so by putting my cover together, I'm trying to a bit more people in your reading group. And so, and a lot of times you'll say, I really don't like blue. It's just not my color. But your title is something like the blue factor. And I'll be like,
You
I'm
got
going to
a blue.
blue. Right, I'm going to use blue. And if nothing else, that will spur a conversation. Am I deaf? No, I'm not deaf. I did write that down and I did hear you,
Mhm,
but it'll spur a conversation about why you don't want blue. Maybe the blue factor is just too obvious. And maybe, or maybe you want to
mhm,
explore that through the words of your book.
mhm,
Great. Let's have that conversation. But I will give you my 2 cents, and it's perfectly fine for you to hand me back one of those cents or both of them. That's fine. But let's have that conversation. And then usually the third cover is a mix of those two, the ones that you want, my impression, and then somehow I'll try to mix those two together so we have like a mix up of whatever it could be. I don't even know what that could be. That's situation specific. So we now have a one direction and another direction and then something in the middle. So all this does is
mhm.
it makes a visual conversation. And I never say pick one. I'll never say that. It's always okay, this worked for you, and now maybe I've opened a door for you, or maybe you explain why some of these other doors are closed. That's great. Let's move on to the next more sophisticated conversation, more sophisticated cover, and keep working until we find a cover that opens all those doors, that maybe includes more readership, that maybe uses blue and the blue factor. I mean, like maybe we can combine some things and not shut all the doors or shut all, maybe we can expand some concepts. So that's what I try to do with somebody that says, I just need it to be this. A lot of times
It's
these,
it's almost always a mistake when you are so myopically tunneled and not opening to the other possibilities. The other thing I would suggest, Rebecca, I know we only have a few minutes left here, but that I would suggest to everyone is that you must know who your comparable or competitive
yes, yes,
authors are out here. And
yes.
I would be doing a very quick Amazon search here to with
Or in
their
the
name.
bookstore.
And
Walk into the
well,
bookstore.
but
Take
they the
photos.
bookstore is not going to show a pre-coming book up, right?
True.
So I would be going on there. I mean, I'm trying to do it very fast, quick to see what's out here, to see what these current books are looking like. Am I in that, am I in this genre? The people who like to read this genre, will they recognize that? Or if there is a couple of authors who are the main players and the consistent best-selling authors in this theme area or the genre area, and often if they're really main big people, they may be showing books 3 almost 6 months out covers saying this is coming in November like
Yeah.
thing. And
Why not build interest? Why not?
well, not only why not, but why not make sure that the cover that I'm having designed, does this have a chance with this baby that's coming along with the big one?
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's what's to me that is one of the essential things that's part of our let's say competitive intelligence. Let's use a
Yes.
word
Yes.
that would
Yes.
be the
Yep.
appropriate.
Yep.
Are you, so all of you, my question for you as we wrap up here, are you doing competitive marketing intelligence?
Yep.
Are you
It's the
doing
whole
that?
it's the whole thing. It's not only the writing, but it's also the visuals. It's the branding. I mean, we'll come back to that every single time. It's every aspect of the book. Are you being competitively intelligently competitive? I mean, you can turn that word
Yeah,
both ways.
that's right. And that also includes checking out their website. Are you looking at, what social media they're posting on to see what they're doing to maybe noodle, get you thinking of, well, maybe I should be doing some of this and that. I can see so many things. I see so many boo-boos out there that could have been avoided easily if they
Yeah,
not.
sometimes I walk into bookstores and be like, "Oh, I should take names. I should just reach out to these people."
Oh, yes. Okay. So with that, Rebecca Finkel, you can find her at FT as in Paul, G as in great, and D as in day. And that if you want some help, some input, she's just a great resource. I'm honored to be working with her, having her represent me on the cover to thousands of book buyers. It's so jazzy. And with that, so Rebecca, thank you for being with us today. I love our just, we never have an agenda. We just,
I know. It's crazy.
all right, everyone, have a great week. Happy writing, happy publishing, and definitely great book marketing to you. We'll see you next week.